All right, so Dan, you wanted to tell Terry's story.
So this week because life was busy.
Will this be a long story, Daniel?
Are they ever short stories with me?
Okay, then continue.
No, so I stepped back from DMing the D&D game that we had going. So it's 7 players, and Adam and I were hatching a plan. Adam's one of the players. We were hatching a plan for the past 3 months of kind of the exit of me as the DM and the other guy taking over. And what we ended up doing was we corrupted his character, and he slowly was working against the party in certain ways.
Well, give him more credit than that. You and I have been corrupting my character for about 8.5 months. So, my third session ever playing, Dan gave me a gauntlet that is magical and I can't take off. And everybody else at the table is brand spanking new.
Okay.
So nobody knows what a cursed item is except for me. And I turned to Dan at the end. He's like, yeah, it does stuff. Don't worry, we'll talk after. And everyone else is just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so I turned to Dan after. Like,
bless them. They still trust you.
Yeah. What is this item? And Dan's like, death and corruption.
Yeah. I gave Adam a vision of being alone in a tundra with a nagging voice in the back of his head that was, slowly eating away at his sanity. And he's like, oh, good.
Oh my God,
good.
He showed you being married in Canada.
So anyways, I've been slowly getting ready for this. Every magic item we find, and I get my hands on first. I'm weighing it. Do I keep it or do I let others have it? Oh, it's a +1 mace. I don't need this. Oh, they're magical pipes of the sewer that summon swarms of rats. This will be useful.
Yeah.
I will take the cloak of invisibility. You get the helmet of sight. I don't need that shit.
Whatever.
So.
Yeah. And he sent me this message at the beginning of the week saying, hey, so how many alchemist fires do I have? You gave me alchemist fires, but you didn't tell me exactly how many. And halfway through the session, I'm gauging because I know he's doing something screwy, and I just go. You've got 3. In the middle, everyone's talking and role playing. I just turn to Adam and I hold up 3 fingers, and he just goes nice, and sits back
3 will
and
work.
starts playing.
Yeah.
So I had them in this obsidian room, and Adam locks the gate. The entire party.
There's a big tentacle monster that they're fighting, the quote-unquote boss monster. Okay. Little do they know that it's me.
Right.
I'm the real boss monster. So they're all fighting this thing, and Dan's got some of them on the astral plane and whatnot. But there's a portcullis that we had to open up to get everybody in. They all got in, and then I closed it, and then I shoved a crowbar in to block it, wedge it shut, and then I disappeared into the darkness. I was a Doomstalker Ranger. So
you did one more thing before you did that. He set traps on the gate before he walked away. And
did anybody in the party click
no one clued in. They were just oh, Charm's just doing weird stuff. Yeah. Adam's just being weird. It's fine because they're in the middle of a fight.
To be fair, the traps were me balancing very, very precariously. A porcelain doll that I'd picked up was a creepy porcelain doll
and a teddy bear.
And a teddy bear. It was actually a unicorn toy.
Oh yeah.
And I balanced them. They didn't know that there was poison gas and stuff inside these things that I'd built in midweek content months before.
Ago. Yeah.
Dan had long since forgotten about it. I'm so I wedge it in, I put the unicorn toy down, and I walk away. And Dan's like, fucking why?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it took me a moment, and then I saw the gears working out on his head. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah. So we have one character who's a god thunder cleric, and he electrocuted the gate just, as a way to seal anything from coming back, and it set off the gas traps.
Yeah.
And at that point, everyone was like, Charm, what's going on? They didn't even buy into the full betrayal right away.
And I ran back. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here, have these health potions. And I handed them alchemist fire. And
yes.
Right?
And no one took it. They were just like, burp, burp, drink. And it set off this massive conflagration of fire and doom. And at that point, it was Adam versus the party.
Yes.
But I turned invisible. And I started to run across the ceiling while I summoned swarms of rats. They could hear me playing this pan flute, and because it's essentially a Pied Piper item, right? Yeah. And rats are swarming out of nowhere, and they're all running around. Half of them, nobody has full hit points except me.
Yeah.
And I ended that battle. I had only lost 2 hit points.
Yeah.
And I managed to straight up murder 3 of them.
Yeah. He straight up killed 3 players. One of them was the guy who's taking over the campaign. So, he needed to die. Yeah. The other... Yeah, he's taking over as the DM. The other 2 players are the most experienced players at the table. And Adam and I were talking about it. I was like, these are the two that could probably handle it the most. So shout out to Tyler and Graham for taking that one. Like
And you heard them.
I sat down at the beginning of the session. I'm like, guys, everyone at the table, things are gonna get weird. And I typically don't like treading into these waters, so keep an open mind. I've got a plan. There's a reason.
Nah, don't
And
even tell
move
them
on.
that.
No,
Well, they're new.
they're new players,
Brand
Bless,
spanking.
they'll be fine.
So we sat down and like
Bless him.
I've gotten a couple messages from the players saying, so I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I'm like, this was Monday night, guys. Like, it's Wednesday. Move on, right? But
I've played 7
Get over
other
it.
D&D games by now.
Cry me
right.
a river. You never died in D&D before?
No,
It
no,
gets
they
easier.
haven't.
they haven't. No one had seen death in the game before, which added weight because it was 3 of them dying, and like one of the characters who lived spent a lot of time building into Adam's character as this member of the militia and bringing him in, and was kind of like this
total
mentor.
betrayal of the captain.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was
Excellent.
complete betrayal. You stole a beloved NPC and took him with you
And I teleported out.
and teleported out. Like,
Yeah.
like
8 men entered, 3 men left.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
it was.
And the new DM has this wonderful villain now that can warp in whenever he wants and be invisible and just destroy the party.
Love it.
At any given time.
Yeah, so that was my Monday night, and all of that was in 3 hours as well.
Yeah.
Like, this story is almost taken as long as the session did, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good, and like the
Fully
guys kept an
support
open
this.
mind.
Yeah. You love it when players get hurt.
Yep.
And so we figured you would enjoy this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to the actual...
I love it when people get hurt.
I just watch your kids like fall off bikes all day. Like, fuck your kids. Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh my god, save the child. I'm going, ha! Survival of the fittest. Next.
Terry's in the corner dousing his second child with gasoline.
Yeah. I could have guessed it would have been that kid, by the way.
He's got that look about him.
That weakness. He's got that weakness in his eyes.
Anyways, enough about Dan's kids. The Whoa! It got personal now, did it?
Well, no, it's just my kids could totally take both of you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, without a doubt.
The youngest
Believe that.
one alone.
Adam,
yeah.
Adam would turn invisible.
Yeah, and Terry would die.
Die.
Terry would get doused in gasoline somehow.
Yep. All right. So, what I want to talk about for this episode of the podcast is the concept of random tables.
Yeah.
There are lots of different kinds of random tables and lots of different ways to actually add that sense of randomness to your world without it being too wacky random or obviously too railroaded in. There are a few different ways of approaching this problem, so I wanted to really address that because no matter who you are, you will run into random tables at some point with Dungeons and Dragons. It's hard baked right into it, right? So, but first, let's roll the music and do an intro after that. So, all right.
Welcome to It's a Mimic with your DMs, Adam, Dan, and Terry.
And welcome back to another episode of It's a Mimic. I am Adam. With me, of course, as always, are Dan and Terry. Say hello, Dan and Terry.
Hello, Dan and Terry.
Do you know what we do a lot? Actually, I've noticed is we always go, yeah, at the same time. It's weird.
In that 1 second that I pause and allow you guys
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
We just grunt an acknowledgement. It's like, yeah, we're here too. Stuck in a room with Adam
Like
again.
some sort of hostage video where we're being proven to still be alive.
There's even a cool backdrop behind us. You get a flag.
Yeah.
Put it on behind us.
Actually, it does look like the setup
kinda
for a
does, right?
hostage video.
We need to get an NPC with a scimitar to stand beside it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And on that bombshell, probably the wrong phrase to use.
Oh.
If anything, I didn't mean to do that. But okay.
Anyway.
Let's go.
So, random encounters. I want to cover the idea of random encounters before we do anything else as far as random tables go. Because no matter if you're running a railroad campaign or a sandbox where you can go and do whatever you want, or even a funhouse dungeon. I mean, funhouse dungeons are in and of themselves kind of random in the first place. And we'll cover that in a future episode. But no matter what kind of campaign you're running, you're going to run into the idea of your characters traveling. This is the traditional one, where they're traveling or they're sleeping in the dungeon because players are dumb. Where they decide that they're just going to wedge something under the door and get a long rest in the middle of the goblin keep, right? So someone
done that several times
because the goblins are on the other side of the door, and they're like, "We can't fight them. We're too tired." Is the door closed? It is. Wedge something underneath it, and they won't enter over the course of the next 8 hours.
Yeah, the goblins all turn around and like punch out like Wile E. Coyote. They get their time cards. But so you have these random encounters to mix it up, to keep your players on their toes. We have got a player in our Sunday group. Her favorite part of anything that we do, all of the intrigue and backstory and NPCs, the hours and hours and hours of work that I put into this story and the character development is tossed out the window if we get to do random encounters. Because that's when she sits there and claps and bounces and yay!
Sings On the Road again.
Yay! Mindless, no consequence murder. Yay!
Random encounters are usually built around the concept of let's just unleash all of our spell slots and go to town on this thing.
Yeah.
We're traveling for 17 days. It's day 14. We know we're not meeting the boss. Let's just unleash all of the shit that we want to do. Everything we've prepped. This is the opportunity for you to say, hey, you know what? My character, I've envisioned doing this kind of thing against a large creature. And here's a large creature.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going to go to town.
It's also a good time to like practice your combos. Like we had the black bomb. What we called it, where one of our characters would cast darkness, the other one would throw a fireball in, and chaos would ensue.
And you guys started that on a random encounter.
We started that on a random encounter where we're like, let's give this a try. Or rather, you guys did, and I shot arrows in.
Yeah.
And it was a beloved NPC, it turned out. But anyway.
One time it was a tiger.
One time it was a tiger, yeah.
That thing is still in my bag of holding.
That's the only success, I think.
Oh, wait, no, we made slippers for the one who loves random encounters.
Yeah. So, when it comes to random encounters, guys, I want to talk about pros, cons. What are your preferences? Do you do anything different that other people might not do for random encounters? So, I want to steer away from items.
Yeah.
Right? There's all sorts of random item tables. And I want to steer clear of the idea of there's the random table for the wild magic, right? That's not what I want to talk about right now. Let's talk about monster encounters. It doesn't even have to be monsters, just your random encounters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's grab our dice and roll initiative.
13!
Oh, I rolled an 8 and came in second.
Did I win?
You did.
won.
Suckers!
Terry goes first for the first time.
I'm celebrating.
You just humped the table.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I did do that. Yes. Okay. So the reason I like random encounters is I always talk to you guys about keeping the threat of death alive in the game, and I think this is a way that the threat of death is kept alive. Because it's random, there's kind of most people will use a sense of balance, but I feel like this is the time where the game can go completely off the rails. Depends on how many random encounters you're going to have in a single day. You may not be expecting to have to use that many spell slots or the items, and it also makes often overlooked elements of the game come back into play, such as ammunition. You can only carry so many crossbow bolts unless you have a magic item for some reason lets you carry 500. That's because your DM doesn't want to deal with it anymore. But for some people, it's an important
Or you
part.
have 3 of those items.
Right.
Thanks, Adam.
Well, I just
or whatever,
I just hate
or rest.
encumbrance.
Exactly. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It all depends on what kind of game you want to play. So for me, my favorite kind of random encounters are the ones I don't like the ones where it's just 2d4 wolves. Okay, 2d4 wolves are, I don't know, in the middle of the street. Okay, and now we're dealing with that.
Yeah.
I like the idea that, remember, your players are not... The world does not revolve around your players. The world is going on around you, and you're just in there. So you may come across a robbery happening. You're not getting robbed. Somebody else is getting robbed. How do you deal with this? Or you may just come across some enemy soldiers who aren't necessarily being aggressive towards you. They're just around their campfire. Or you may not just come across a bear, you may come across some bear cubs, or a bear in the middle of a meal, which is a dead body, and you spot a magic item in that dead body. How are you going to deal with it? So I like to make them a little bit more interesting instead of just, and an owl bear steps out. Okay, go. It's not really interesting. So for me, it gives an extra little... Dan, you've been sick for 3 months, okay? Figure it out.
No, it's just a tickle. It's just a tickle.
I don't understand. Okay. We were here for like an hour before we started to get into this,
and you didn't cough once.
So what are you? You just
it's psychosomatic.
I'm done with this shit.
It's the most passive aggressive sickness I've ever come across in my life.
I'm so sorry.
Back to random.
I tried to handle it. Like I build myself
Your
up before
coughing is the random encounter of this podcast.
Okay,
I try to edit it all out, but occasionally, like one sneaks through. through and I get a message from a listener saying, "Are you feeling okay, dude?" It's like,
You've
no,
been
I'm
feeling
just
okay for
coughing.
the past 3 years? Okay. But also, what random encounters do is allow your team to bond and figure out their strategies that they're going to use together.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the Black Bomb, for example, that we use in our games. They can figure out each other's styles, what to expect from each other, and also, kind of meta, figure out how your DM works as well, how they strategize things.
Yep.
That is me.
Yep. Okay.
You're next.
One of the things that I want to just ask real quick, Terry, is do you have an example of when you've run into something like that?
No, but I'll come back to me.
All right.
I'll think of it.
Okay. Before we wrap this up, we'll all have
We'll come back to it. Yeah.
I've got a
an
few,
example. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I have a million ideas on this because of course I do, but one of the things that I want to talk about is the idea of a random encounter does not have to be combat.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Right, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people get wrong is they just say, "Okay, what monster are we going to use?" And that's it. It is so much more fun when you have things. And see, I break mine down into five different categories, and I make you guys roll a d20, and each one of the categories is on there 4 times.
Yeah.
Right, and it's all mixed up randomly, just to find out what it is, so that I have no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
As well, right? But it's either a fellow traveler that's with you decides to do something.
Yeah.
And now you get a social interaction. There's a total stranger. That's a different one. So there's your allies, then a stranger. I don't know who that stranger is until they show up. There is environment.
Yeah, or a change in weather, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You guys have in the past run into things like, and all of a sudden you find a cliff face that appears in front of you. You know you're heading north, and a cliff appears. Now you have to climb up it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? That doesn't seem like a whole lot, and it only takes 20 seconds for everybody to roll their athletics check to get up. But that one person that fails, and then the other guys have to go down and pick them up and get them through, and now you've got party interaction.
Yeah.
Right? And that can be a lot of... You guys just did it. There we go. So that could be a lot of fun for people to kind of get the dynamic. One of the things that I have on my critical tables, it's been a while since we've seen this, is when you crit fail so badly that everybody else gets to laugh at you.
Yeah.
And that's just...
That was funny.
Yeah, that's just you as the player getting shit on by the other players around the table.
Yeah.
And
I love that. I'm actually a big advocate of bullying, so I do appreciate that.
see the earlier conversation. And then there's monster as well.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which we, strangely enough, very rarely run into, is what I call evidence. And this is what I really like. You guys ran into it in the last encounter. We did a one-shot, and you were walking through the desert, and there were serpent folk in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the very first thing that you ran into was a giant post with skulls on it, marking the edge of their territory. That's evidence. That is a random encounter. What do? Do you go and do you investigate it? Maybe it's trapped. Maybe it isn't. Maybe there are instructions written in a language that you're not familiar with. Or maybe an NPC is familiar with it, and they can guide you on how to handle the serpent folk.
Yeah.
Right? That there needs to be, in my head, a general escalation as well. If I know that you're heading deep into pygmy territory, there will be signs, like totems that they've put up. Then there will be bodies strung in the trees, and there will be a little scouting party, and then there'll be a patrol, and then there'll be a small village, and then you find their large encampment. Yeah. Each one of these is a random encounter that I've not prepped. They're all on the table, and you roll it because maybe you missed the scouting party, or maybe you missed the small village, and all of a sudden you turn the corner, bang, you're right in the middle of this large city of hostile people. Can you imagine what that would be like if you were to stumble into a Mind Flayer colony because you didn't get to the right random encounters heading up to it?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I can't imagine, but yeah, it would be awful.
You wouldn't have to imagine it for very long.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I do is I have like layers of tables within tables, because I want to know, I want you to roll to see how many hours have gone by, roll to see what kind of encounter we're going to have, roll to see how bad it's going to be, and then from there roll to determine exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So and you get the players to do that as well. So it's very inclusive, and I think it builds more excitement because it puts it on us instead of just watching you roll 4 dice.
Yeah.
Of different kinds. It's we go around one at a time, and everybody is responsible for a different part of it.
Yeah.
And it makes it more exciting.
And we actually roll initiative for it too, right? To see.
Yeah.
I just need to know who the highest is, because we're going to start with you. We got 9 days of travel. You start. You're going to roll how many hours have gone by, and now maybe it's happening at night, or maybe it's happening in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe it's happening first thing in the morning when you guys are waking up, and you turn around and realize half your shit's gone.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't plan that. Random encounter. You guys should have rolled better.
Yeah.
Right? So,
you reminded me of something there when you were touching on evidence, of territory that you're going to go in. I like the idea of evidence as well, more like foreshadowing, especially when it's completely unrelated to what you think's going on.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're in a very giant, heavy campaign, that's the main thing that you've been covering, and then in a random encounter, for some reason, off in the trees somewhere, you see 3 angels pick up a dead body, then just off towards the heavens. That has nothing to do with what you've been doing, and it may not get mentioned again for another 6 sessions.
Yeah.
But I like that idea of using random encounters to just hint at things that may be coming. Oh, you talk about breadcrumbs a lot as well.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we're not interested in that. We're deviating away from it completely, or maybe we're going to pursue that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I like to use random encounters to set the tone of the entire campaign. Because you can have your intricate party politics, your arguments between players about what their characters are going to do. You could have your fights with your big bad and those things. But I find that since a lot of a campaign is travel time, getting from point A to point B, especially in those early levels, it's a fantastic opportunity to set the tone for your campaign, and just what you mentioned this earlier, what kind of DM you are as well through your random encounters. Because I've known DMs that when they're building the random encounter table, if they build it at all, only build things that they know the party can handle. Mm-hmm. I've also known DMs very well who have like 3 out of 20 points the party can handle, and then 17 of you're all dead.
Well, that
right?
makes perfect sense. That's what the world is like.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, but that sets the tone, right? If you walk into an encounter and you are level 4 and a beholder crosses your path, a Glabrazoo shows up out of nowhere and starts waving little hands at you, like, you are going to know your DM is not here to mess around, and he's not going to pull any punches. So maybe you shouldn't be a bit of a bloodthirsty murder hobo.
So just to touch on that, because people are going to be like, "Oh, we can do that." I'm like, "No, okay, you really can't." Right? That's how you just murder a party because T-Rexes.
Yeah.
Right. That's not your story. That's not what your premise.
Yeah.
So can I just pull back the curtain a little bit on mine?
Well, what I was going to suggest is have those encounters, have those monsters, but have a way for your party to get out if they accidentally roll that.
Right. So what I do is I make the D20 table for difficulty level, and the bottom 2 are minor. You guys can stomp this. This is a fire beetle has walked across your path. You're level 14, right? The next 2, which actually happened.
It actually happened.
Yep.
There's my example.
I felt like such a badass because I was like, yeah, fire beetles, all dead. And you're like, there's 4
I
of
still
them.
remember we were still overthinking it.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? There's 20 of us. Make a path. Maybe we can all surround it at once. And then one of us was like, I think I probably got it. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Squish.
So when you roll a 1 and 2, when you roll a 19 or 20, it's easy to handle. 17, 18, it's a little more difficult. This usually has a intelligent creature, but that you can easily kill. Something CR2, you're level 14, right? The next 10 are CR14, right? This is what you're supposed to be fighting.
Yeah.
But then if you roll a 3 or a 4, and you are just not rolling well on your D20, you're going to get something that's a CR17.
Why did you point at me when it said rolling on your D20? You're like,
did a thumbs
throwing
up.
the thumbs towards the thumbs up.
He did the
I was
thumbs
all
up.
like,
Did the thumbs up.
the guy who botched 13 times in one session. Yeah, this guy.
But
Did the thumbs up.
you're so
Paranoid.
paranoid. Yeah, all right, so...
My dice hate me and it hurts.
Apparently. And then if you roll a 1920, you're going to run into a purple worm. But you have to tell your players up front, this is not a combat you can win.
Yeah.
No matter what you can do, this is a monster encounter, not a combat encounter. And really be upfront. I will absolutely break the fourth wall. I'll step out of character and I will say, guys, I love all of your characters very much. Please don't fucking die.
Apart from you.
Well, you actually did this in the one-off we had this past weekend with the Froghemoth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're trying to evacuate a bunch of orphans from an orphanage, and Adam drops a Froghemoth on us and goes, by the way, you will die. And we're like, the orphans are still inside the building, Adam. Ah. So, like, it was this interesting little combat we had where it was like, okay, well, as a level
6.
As a level 6 monk, I'm going to distract this thing. So I'm walking up to it and being like, okay, patient defense, please don't hurt me.
Yep.
And for the first round, it went great. Second round, not so much.
See, I was smart. As a level 6 bard, I escaped immediately on my magic boat.
Yeah.
but that are there any other examples? Dan, are you done? Is there anything?
Oh yeah. No, I'm like that's what I'm saying with this. Like set your tone. You can even set your tone narratively through like just the feeling and the atmosphere of your campaign through random encounters. Like if you're running a jungle campaign, and you want this to be very kind of tribal, almost Indiana Jones-esque, where you're raiding old temples and you're stuck in the heat of the jungle. You're not going to throw in encounters with things like Modrons.
Yeah.
Right? And even your encounters with like giant snakes, you're going to do something unique with the giant snake that really brings in that atmosphere. If you're in an urban campaign, you're not fighting giant eagles, but your encounter within is going to within the city is going to be like with a thief who's going to try to sell some of his ill-gotten gains to you or something like that, right? Like you set the narrative tone with your random encounters as well.
So one of the things that I do right at the beginning of whenever I'm running a campaign is I sit down and I go, what are all the monsters that are available to me? And at this point I have my spreadsheets already.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, what is potentially going to be in each one of these environments? And as much as I go jungle, forest, desert, urban, I actually go this island. Okay, this village. This specific forest as opposed to this forest. Right? And so I theme them so that you guys are rolling on a different table every time. If you go into, quote unquote, the haunted forest, it should be undead.
Yeah.
If you go into the magic forest, it should be fae. Right? And those two things are going to be radically different, but they still happen in a forest.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's
what I was going with. Yeah.
Okay. Examples, guys.
Okay. A good random encounter example I thought of was this probably over a year ago now, was where we came across a dead dragon that had been chewed apart.
Yep.
And we were like, what the hell could kill a dead dragon? Turns out it was a T-Rex.
Two T-Rex.
Two T-Rex. Well, it was one at first, and then there was two
afterwards,
because there's always a mate. Don't forget that. And that's because we were playing a game. We were just being introduced to your game where I was using lots of portals, things coming from different realms. There was so much going on in that random encounter because we were like, first of all, what could kill a dragon? Well, yes, agreed, a T-Rex could. But why the fuck is there a T-Rex there at the same time as a dragon? These things are from two different places. There's so much going on. Now there's a second one. And that really set the tone for your campaign, which is shit's coming in from all different angles. We don't know where it's coming at any one time.
Yeah, and Dan, you weren't there for that. When it was all said and done, they went, oh shit, we need a fucking long rest now. I've dropped the F-bomb like 5 times already. We need a fudging long rest now. And so they all sat down.
Have you ever spoken to our audience? They're worse than us.
I almost started to name drop. But so they all started to, they all like went down for a long rest. And then the will-o-wisps came, attracted to all of the death.
Yes, that's right.
That night. And so that was another one. Because there was a dragon there. First encounter, hey, look, a dragon. Second encounter, T-Rex, 2.5, second T-Rex. 3 will-o-wisps. And by the end of it, I had one player look at me going, man, I just need 8 hours.
Just need to sleep.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, that was great. You taught me a very early lesson as a fighter, which is try not to stab a T-Rex.
Yeah, I do believe that you ran directly into its mouth.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That has gone incredibly poorly for upwards of 15
swiftly,
Oscars.
and that was swiftly thrown away from it from 20 feet, if I recall.
Jeez.
Okay, so my example is there was a shipwreck that happened, and you guys actually bypassed the shipwreck. This was going to be, if you rolled between 5 and 15, you would see a sinking ship. But you didn't. You rolled a 1. But you also rolled it as an evidence. So a barrel came floating with a bunch of stuff just out of the mists down, as you guys were on your ship looking out. Go, oh, there's a barrel over there. And you guys had to get down to the barrel. And Dan, I think you were upside down with your feet sticking out of it, like trying to get the stuff in the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember what was in the bottom of it because...
A bunch of purple gems.
It was a bunch of purple gems. Yeah, that's right. So you went down there to get this barrel. The barrel had nothing to do with anything. There was so much stuff on the sunken ship. If you guys had rolled... too high, the ship would have been wouldn't have sunk far enough and would have torn the hull out of your boat. right? So there were all of these different, like, I knew there was something about a ship coming. And the ship, what sunk the ship, was really the storyline point. But we never even got to it. There was just a floating barrel. And you guys went, oh, weird. But it also set the tone for boats can sink. Stuff is floating just out in this world.
Yeah.
And you can't see it until it's on top of you.
Well, the thing is, you were calling it at the moment, just to expand on that, like, you were calling it a pirate stash. So you're like, oh, it's just this floating little thing that's probably making its way with the tides to a certain direction, or the currents to a certain direction. And now I'm sitting here going, no one stuck their... Oh, we were surrounded by kippers. That's why no one stuck their head in the water to see what was underneath. Yeah,
yeah, you guys were surrounded by quippers, and that was deadly in and of itself.
Yeah,
but Dan, is there anything?
So I in the Chult campaign, we had a random encounter where you come across a old decayed statue in the middle of the woods.
I love that you call it the Chult campaign and not Tomb of Annihilation.
Honestly, it's because you spend 90% of the campaign gallivanting and romping through the jungles on Chult.
Chult of Annihilation.
And then the last 10% of the campaign is going through the 10 levels of the tombs.
If you make it that far.
If you make it that far, no, it's
2%.
It's incredibly deadly. But there was this random statue in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by wilderness, just bizarre. So of course we go over.
Is this right out of the module?
This is right out of the module.
Okay, cool.
And we went over and we investigated it and saw that there was this one thing that you could depress. So of course,
was it an emo kid?
Was it another player?
No, it was a button on the statue. Both of you were terrible people. So you push the button and you hear this buzzing. And you're like, oh, okay, well, it's just a weird hum in the air, whatever. We got attacked by, I think it was like a dozen sturges.
That must have made you real happy.
Which I was thrilled. Those who have listened to past episodes know my feelings of sturges and why they are my least favorite monster in this game. But the problem is, sturges en masse are loud. So when you're in the jungles of Chult and there are dinosaurs everywhere, the dinosaur's going to be like, oh, what's that buzzing noise? And come tromping in. So then we had to fight a T-Rex. I was going to bring this up, and then you started talking about T-Rexes. I'm like, yeah, mine's T-Rex too. A T-Rex came and started attacking us and the sturges at the same time. And it was this awesome three-way battle that we were having around this old decayed statue that really gave us a minor amount of information about the campaign, but it really gave us that feeling of, you are stuck in the middle of the jungle and you have no way really out. So if you get hit with one of these gigantic bugs and they pass a disease onto you, you're buggered, bud.
And they get 2 turns.
So they get
an action sturge.
I hate...
I don't know if they get 2 turns. I just had to say that.
Love it. Terry, take a D8 inspiration.
Thank you. Actually, I will.
You can put it on. You can add it to your next roll.
I'm going to add it to my next roll.
Hold on. I got the dice. All right, so there you go, sir. I'm going to start doing that now. Absolutely.
Love it.
We're going to hand out. DM sends out inspiration dice.
The podcast is evolving.
So the last thing that I want to just mention really quickly, I got one tip for players, one tip for DM, or for any DMs out there. For DMs, we talked about T-Rexes. There are 5 different kinds of dinosaurs.
Yep.
In the monster manual. Don't use a T-Rex. Give them a plesiosaur. Give them a stegosaurus. Give them something that they're not expecting. Everyone knows that there are imps. Grab a different devil. When you're using random encounters, that's when you get to go digging into these other kind of weird creatures in there.
Yep.
Some of the oozes that you will never have any reason to use can be used now.
Yeah.
So for DMs, really try to think outside the box. Volos is great, and so is Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. These are great books for expanding on the monsters and getting kind of different flavors.
To stretch your legs and practice a little bit in a situation where it's not necessarily plot critical.
Yeah.
You can just experiment and play and kind of just hone your skills a little as a DM.
And listen to your party too. Like sometimes a party will be like, man, it's been a long time since we fought an owlbear. And you're like, okay, well, guess what? Next week you're hitting 4 of them.
But you're putting them on a random table though, right?
Well, you put them on a random table. Like if your party is saying, hey, we want to fight these things, make it a possibility for them to fight them.
Yeah, one of the things that I think about all the time is beholders. Everyone wants to fight a beholder, but nobody wants to fight a beholder.
Right.
Like everybody wants to fight a dragon, but no, you don't. That's terrifying. So this is your opportunity to pull out the wormling. You're never going to have a wormling as a boss battle.
No.
Right? You're never going to have a gazer or a spectator or a zombie beholder as a boss battle. But you want to see how a beholder functions or how a dragon can work in combat at low levels. So you're kind of getting an idea of what's coming later.
Yeah.
These random encounters are the opportunity for you to put that stuff on your list, on your table, and see if it comes up, you get to experiment and play. Now, from a player's perspective, when it comes down to a random table and there's random stuff that's happening all the time, this is the opportunity for you to make the choices like the rogue says, I want to go left and not right, and the rest of the party goes right. On a random encounter, I feel like the rogue can sit back and go, yeah, I'm not going to do this one. This is when you get to be kind of the pain in the ass. This is where the barbarian gets to go in a rage and hit the thing and then keep on hitting it, and now it's dead, and he just keeps hitting it. And he keeps hitting it, and now he's got owlbear paste. Right? Because he wants that flavor, but he can't do that in the urban setting, right?
Yeah.
So this is where you get to really stretch your wings as your character. Those role-playing ideas that you had that you never get to do because you really shouldn't.
This is where you get to like skin them and wear their face. And
all of that really weird, nightmarish garbage that you are
You
attracted
terrify me.
What? What are you talking? That's what people do in this game.
Absolutely. That is what people do.
It's a fantasy game.
Yeah. I have yet to run a campaign where it's something where someone did not get skinned and worn. As a matter of fact, in your campaign, my character ran around covered in blood and a kobold skull.
Yep.
So, it just happened.
That actually really helped with a random encounter that you came across.
Yep.
Also, a lot of DMs will ask you to describe how you kill it when you do. It's messed up. It's messed up, but it's primal.
Yep. Let's take a break and go to commercial for a second before we move on to the next thing.
Is it a happy commercial?
How cool would it be to hear your company name on this podcast? Pretty stinking cool. It's a Mimic is ready to take our show to the next level. We want to partner with other awesome businesses to share your brand with our listeners. Please email us at info@itsamimic.com for advertising information.
Well, it wasn't a depressing commercial.
A depressing commercial.
It was kind of happy, I
Not
guess.
enough skinning for my liking.
I mean, it is a mimic. Anyway, I want to move on to the next thing, the next randomized portion of D&D that people run into a lot, and that is magic items.
Yeah.
Essentially, how do we keep the balance? What are some unique ways of handling it? And do you guys have advice for DMs and players when rolling on this? Because the DMG is absolutely full of like a good solid dozen magic items. Magic item tables, rather.
Oh, I was like, it's got more than a dozen magic items there.
Sorry. I suppressed the cough in the middle of the podcast.
Oh, how do you do
There's
that?
at least 12.
Yeah. So there are a lot of tables that are there. I can't use a lot of them myself, right? Even for a level, you guys are level 16 now in your campaign.
15.
15?
15.
You guys are level 15. Man, some of the stuff in there is just game breaking.
Yeah.
How do you handle this when your player rolls a d12 to find out what table, rolls a 12, and then rolls percentile against 100?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
So, random tables can actually work against you sometimes as a DM. And you as a player, how do you handle when a DM says, actually, no, do it again?
Yeah.
Right? So, let's roll with initiative. Terry gets his inspiration.
Oh! That's 20 for me, for the big dog, against a 3 and a 2.
I rolled a 3 and came in second.
How the tides have turned.
Before this podcast, I'm like, I'm probably not going to talk that much about this one, guys. And then the dice confirmed that for me.
Well, magic items. Okay. Pros and cons of using random tables. Pros of using a random table depends on... Okay, if you're using, like you just said, Adam, the DMG magic item random tables, yeah, sometimes there's not as much balance there as you would like. Or you can do the semi-random tables, which is like a random table that you have constructed, where there's a little bit more control. And so you do have an element of balance there. So the cons of not using random tables or of using the more broader ones like the DMG ones is there isn't balance. But sometimes I like the idea of embracing that. And that's okay as long as you have a way to control it. Which your question was, how do I control it?
Yeah.
If, for whatever reason, let's say we're level 7. When we roll and we get an item which is just far too powerful and we shouldn't have it, it's going to be game breaking, it's going to ruin everything. I like the idea of these items of such power, especially sentient items, you should have a certain level of ability before you can control it. I don't think there's anything wrong with making your player who attempts to control a very high powerful magic item to roll, say, a wisdom save or roll a whatever type of save to see if they can even control this power in the first place. Is it going to work how they think it's going to work? Is it just going to completely fail because they don't have a way to control it? Or is this sentient item instead going to decide that they will maybe start to take control of that player? So I think there's plot hooks you can use if these magic items are too powerful.
That's a really cool idea. You just kind of sparked something in my head. I've never seen this, and I don't know why I haven't seen it in D&D, because it's in every video game
ever.
Is why don't your weapons level?
Yeah.
You have seen it, just it hasn't been direct. I do that in my games all the time. One of the characters who recently died had a greatsword that what I do is... they don't necessarily level, but their abilities become released slowly over time.
Yeah, but my point is that every time that you go 5 levels, you can now swing this with such accuracy. You've been using it for so long that now its +2 ability is unlocked and a +3 ability. Yeah. So it just levels with you.
Or a +3 great axe or whatever. Say at level 9. You get to make a roll or a series of rolls to determine whether it goes to +1. And then a couple of levels later, you can determine whether it goes to +2. So you can unlock this ability over time with the right rolls.
That's really cool, yeah.
Or you could do it a different way by amount of time, like Fable almost, like the amount of times you use the skill.
Yeah.
You'll level it up. So if you're sticking the pointy end in the other guy 100 times, well, then it's going to level. And then you're just keeping track of how many guys you actually kill with it.
Yeah, and even the item is not going to work. Maybe it'll work to its full potential, but it's not going to work in the way that you want to. Mm-hmm. And this is part of exploration. This is a descriptive thing that you can do, that as you're trying to use the item, you get the strong sense that you can't control it. Mm-hmm. You realize that you can't. If you choose a target, you're not sure if you're going to hit that target or not. No. It may be random. So it gives them... Players don't feel like they're being cheated. They feel like they have something to work towards. They're unlocking the item over time, and we all know from smartphones and games like that, you like those little rewards over time. Yep. There's something to work towards, and it gives you another exploration to unlock in your game as well. So I don't think things need to be unbalanced. I think there's a way we can deal with it. So for random tables, that's the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, that's excellent. You've completely derailed me now, because I'm like, oh, that's so cool, and
now
I can do this with this.
You're just prepping.
I'm just making magic items in my head, which I need to stop doing. So one of the things that I do, I want to talk a little bit about starting gold and magic items, because a lot of people say, when you start a campaign, you're going to be level 12. How do you start with your items?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What do you do? Like, how much starting gold do you get? Do you have magic items and whatnot? One of the things that I like to do is I like to make my own table, quote unquote, and then add a cost to everything.
Yeah.
But that cost is simply just points. You get whatever starting gold would be appropriate at your level, but a level 5 adventuring party not only has earned what a level 5 starting package would be, but they probably earned about 6 times past that.
Yeah.
Just with, we got 15 orcs, so we've looted everybody.
Yeah.
Right? We've sold all the stuff. We've turned every ladder into 2 10-foot poles and sold it back. Right? Like, we have done absolutely everything we can to make money. So when a new person joins, they're severely underpowered. So what I do is I make this list, and I say, look, you have this. Here are 5 really cool weapons. This one costs 5 points. This one costs 4 points. This one costs 3 points. These 2 cost 2 points each. Okay? You have a maximum of 5 points to spend in this area.
Yeah.
So you can either get a big one or 2 little ones, right? And so I like to give players agency when choosing their own starting items, especially magic items.
Yeah.
I think that if you are an adventurer, even if you are level 1, you should have 1 magic item. And 5th Ed isn't built that way. 3.5 was built that way, and that's why I feel like it really needs to apply to Dungeons and Dragons. But 5th Ed is built around, you get 1 magic item essentially per tier. Mm-hmm. And everyone in the party does. Period. I play high magic item campaigns, right? Everybody gets them, but then I neuter what the magic item can do, right? I give a lot of really strange ones. Like, a little carving that's about 2 inches tall of a stool. That if you say the word, it becomes a full-size stool, and you can sit on it.
Yeah.
Right? What are some of the other ones that I've handed out to you guys, right? Like,
what favorite ones?
Yeah.
Trip Willie deck.
The Trip Willie deck.
The Trip Willie deck was awesome. So basically, it was a homebrew game. I've never heard of that game. If it is
I made that up.
So you eventually invented a game that could be played within the game.
Yeah.
And magic cards can be magic cards can be inputted into the deck, because I kind of find that when each one of them has an ability. Now, it wasn't necessarily that some of the abilities were stronger than others. It wasn't necessarily that they were high level abilities. It was lots of low level abilities that could be used creatively to do things.
Turn invisible for 1 turn.
Yeah.
Right?
Perfect.
Or fog cloud for 10 feet.
Or
steal
all of the gold within every creature 15 feet away from
5 feet. You had to be right up there and close. So the idea was I had to be playing the game
magically
and
put into your into a bag of holding type pocket that came with the Trip Willie
That was
deck.
great.
Yeah, there was nothing that was really in and of itself game breaking.
You could light candles within a 30-foot radius or something.
I was absolutely giddy when Duke died, and he gave me that item as like a last will and testament. He's like, and Lockie gets the Trip Willie deck, and I'm like, ooh, something to play with.
And you haven't used it.
I've used it a couple times,
but very rarely. Not like
great.
you did. Yeah,
It's awesome.
But speaking of decks, I want to just do a shout out to the true random table of all time for D&D, and that is the Deck of Many Things.
You must not be named.
the deck
the
of
campaign ruiner of many things is what you're talking about.
I am playing a game right now where I've taken the randomness out of the Deck of Many Things.
Stop saying its name. I have to kill 3 level 4 characters now in order to go back to good.
There's an avatar of death behind Dan as we speak. We can't help or we'll get our own. Good luck. So by the way, I have a keep full of monsters. So the thing about the DOMT, does that count? Is that saying
That's
it?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing about the Deck of Many Things is that dumped is that it is random because they are supposed to draw a card or roll a die to figure out what they get. That is insane. There's some stuff in there that's just totally unbalanced, right? You can
give
have
your third level cleric 3 wishes.
Yep. Summon a
Or
Baylor.
1d4 wishes.
That was fun. Summon a Baylor.
Yeah. You summon a devil, right? Like there are things in there that are just absolutely deadly. Even at level 17, you should not get these things. For example, having your soul whisked away and your body just becomes a husk, and your soul's on another dimension, and no one can know where it is, and that's it. You're done.
Yep.
Right? What do you do with that? So that's just too much. So what I've done is I've taken the random out of the random table, and I've said this entire campaign is based around you guys go out, you have magically attuned to the cards. You have to find one card within 100 days. Every time you do it, resets the clock. You have to find the next card. Mm-hmm. They've been spread out all over the land, and they're all lying face down, and you have to go pick them up one at a time as a party. You guys can choose amongst yourself who draws the card.
Yeah.
And I know ahead of time which card is coming in which order.
So you can prep for it ahead of time
I
because you
prep
know
it ahead
which
of time.
direction they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to things like, you draw this card and die. Mm-hmm. I know there's a character death coming around the corner, and maybe there'll be a priest with Revivify. There won't be.
Now,
but maybe that's what I would do to...
Would you also maybe do something like... You know how there's when there's a large dragon, it affects the environment around?
Yeah,
It becomes more poisonous or it dies or whatever, it becomes cold. Would you maybe look at the idea of doing something like that based on which card is close? How is the environment affected around that card?
Normally, I would say no, but I very much would for this when enough time has passed.
Yeah.
Let it imbue the area slowly and infect the area.
Are the plants dying around?
Yeah.
Or does it seem more fruitful?
If you're going to find the wishes, there's just going to be more genasi around for a few sessions ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Before you get the one where you can, you get your wishes. Mm-hmm. And everything that will happen has to make sense because it's not random. One of the players is playing a UNT Pureblood, and he drew the level 4 fighter who just shows up and says, "I'm loyal to you now." So he got an NPC. He got a bodyguard.
Yes.
Well, which is good. He's a UNT sorcerer. He gets a UNT fighter bodyguard, right? But this fighter has a backstory. I left the temple 3 months ago to find you. It's just the deck of many things has made it so that the fate has aligned, the stars have aligned, and here we are, right? And so that takes the scariness out of it. So allowing your players to have a little bit of say about what they're doing. For example, you know what? Yeah, you got table H in the DMG. That's nutty. Oh my God! You are level 2. You should not have these items. So instead of rolling percentile dice, roll a d10. You get access to the first 10 items on the list.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can make it really random and say, roll a d10, they roll a 2. All right, roll another d10, and it's any one of the 2s along the list, which is essentially just percentile dice. But it gives you the opportunity to stop and go, all right, hold on. Which ones are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then instead of every 2, then we'll start with number 2, and it'll be 2 to 12. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to reward and say, okay, anywhere between 52 and 62.
Yeah.
Right? It gives you the opportunity to get in there. They feel like they have so much more agency, but you're in control of the randomness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dan, do you have anything you want to?
Honestly, when it comes to random item tables and whatnot, I tend to railroad a bit when it comes to them because I'm terrified of them. So what I'll do is I will look at what the table is that they're rolling on, and I'll just be like, no matter what they rolled, they're not getting this. It's just not happening. So I'll give them the item above or below, maybe within 2 spaces, and I will give them the one within that space of like grouping of 5 that I think is best suited for their character or something else like that. Because imagine being a water genasi druid in a river campaign, and you were giving them a ring of water walking, right? Like, these things could pretty much do this anyway, so like it's a fairly useless item. Or you're giving the party the 5th ring of protection or something, right? So like I like to kind of more control what these random items I'm giving out are. And I will take the grouping. You've done this with an actual item you've given my character, which I think is awesome, and it was present in the previous campaign as well, which is this Quiver of Chance.
You know what? Let's make this available online. I'll take a picture of it. We'll throw it up online.
Yeah. It's fairly incredible, but there's 101 different types of arrows and or bolts on it that when you draw from it, you have to roll on the table. And there's a bunch of rules about, if you can't roll a number, you take psychic damage, or if you draw all the dice, you take psychic damage. There's all these other things to it, but you've added the rule in where if you can't select this thing, you get the one above or one below.
Yep.
Right? And that flows throughout the thing. So it's been a fantastic addition to the game, and it's something I've always been doing with my magic items with my players is I don't want to give them the deck of many things, but I'll give them the thing that's like 2 things lower, which is like, oh, you get a +3 greatsword. Sure. Right?
One of the things that I heard about that inspired me to do that was there was a campaign a DM was running where they had a bag of holding, and there was every bag of holding had a list attached to it, and the list was everything that's in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. But you draw one, and then it becomes a bag of devouring.
Oh, so you get to use it, and then it goes away.
So you can reach in and grab one item on that list, and you choose as the player which thing that you want. And if there's only one of these and 4 players standing there, they will argue for 25 minutes, and you as a DM get to order pizza. Yep. Right? Like, whatever it is that you want to do.
I had pizza on the way here. It was really good.
I'm glad to know that, Terry. That was a random encounter for me.
Just enjoy pizza. Just really enjoy pizza.
So, okay. But everyone can sit there and determine, well, I already have a +1 weapon. The barbarian has a +1 weapon. The rogue doesn't, but gets sneak attack. Do we give it to the monk? Right? Does the monk need the +1 weapon? Right? And they all sit around and they argue about this. Mm-hmm. Or maybe we just need that potion of featherfall because we're climbing up into the hills.
Does the barbarian need a 4th great weapon to strap to their back? Or?
Yes. Yeah. That is how barbarians work. Yeah.
That's a dumb question.
And it's a dumb barbarian, too.
They'll never use because they have their favorite one. So.
But anyway, that it
you
keeps
leave one in the monster and then you move on to the next one.
It keeps it random. And you're not really in control, but you've limited the opportunity.
Yeah. So and because a lot of this stuff is going to happen behind the screen, it gives this kind of facade of randomness as well. Like, it's not exactly random. It's random, but it's not completely random. And your players are never going to know the difference. And even as players, if your DM pauses and looks at an item for a while and then says, no, you're going to get the one above it, roll with it, be okay with it. There's probably a balance reason for it. But DMs also be open to giving those powerful items and seeing what happens.
And my favorite thing to do with the powerful item is either make it cursed or give it charges. And nobody does this in D&D anymore. Is this thing will be able to do 10d10 damage. It is a sword. 10d10 force damage. Twice. Here you go. You can have it. Use it wisely. You're never getting another one.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. And then you have the players sit there and they go, oh my god, the wizard just died. The cleric is dying. I have this charge in here. I could end this battle today. But we are going to fight a dragon tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
I would... Not me. I'm the exception to that rule. I would use it immediately.
Yeah, you would use it
like
on your party members.
Yes.
The cleric's dying. Well, let's expedite that a little bit.
Yeah. Because some players just hoard stuff, you know?
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, some players
you're
just hoard
person
stuff.
guaranteed gets to the end of the Final Fantasy game with 99 elixirs or something like that.
Yeah, no,
Because you don't want to use them up because you might run out.
Well, you gave my one character a sword that absorbs dragon souls and then lets me expend the dragon souls in the form of their breath from the sword.
Exactly. I've been doing that 3 times a day, and after the first day I'd have none left, I'd throw it over my shoulder, I'd go, next.
I had that sword, and I had like 4 stock dragon breaths in it, and I used one of them once.
Yep. Yeah, because you hoard it. And
Yeah.
I keep telling you, you will not get new items until you use the ones you have.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you got a magic item, Dan?
Oh, I've gotten one recently. When Duke died. I got a bunch.
That was five sessions ago. And,
Yeah.
And then we looted a bank or a vault. And I've gotten magic items. They all end up in the bag of holding. And
Yeah.
The last time that you got a magic item, it set the wizard on a collision course with you.
We don't even know.
yeah.
Anyway, let's do a shout out.
Yes, sure.
Let's get this back on track.
Yeah, just real quick. And that's the magic item you decided to use was the one that caused the battle with the
There were story reasons.
Because Dan can't help himself and had to read the book.
No. Dan can't help himself and had to answer riddles. Adam went, here, Dan, have a tasty morsel in 20 riddles. And I went, ooh, 20 riddles.
It helps when coming up with random tables and random encounters and random items to know the personalities of your players.
100%.
Yeah.
Which is how I keep sabotaging Dan. So
Well, and
Without
me
fail.
as well. You also find ways to hurt me.
no, I just put you near I just put an encounter close to the nearest ledge, and you take care of the rest.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Okay, so
Adam spends 3 sessions building up a personal relationship with you just so you could end that character, or just so he could end that character. And with me, just like, here's puzzles, now have inter-party politics.
yeah, but onto a shout out because on theme, I want to do a shout out to Lady Tiefling. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lady Tiefling.
No.
She's on Instagram. She's absolutely fantastic. She was one of the first people to follow me, and I was following her back. Just, the early days of Instagram of, I will just follow everyone who follows me because you still have time in your life. But
I'm still in those days.
are you? Okay.
Yeah. I'm almost at 200. I got 199 now.
Oh, shit. There you go.
Yeah,
I will
nice.
unfollow you.
I'm pretty sure Terry already did months ago.
It's a mimic is unfollowing you now. So, anyway. But Lady Tiefling started to make random tables based on what body you're looting. And one of the ones that stuck out to me, I think it was Kobold, but the stuff on it was like a pair of broken boots and a piece of string that's 8 inches long. And some of it's really garbage, useless items.
So I'm
that's
bringing
very
it up
much
right now.
on theme. And her Instagram, it's at Lady Tiefling.
I'm following you right now, Lady Tiefling.
Is there an underscore? No, it's just at Lady Tiefling. And her stuff is fantastic. She is blown up. She's got thousands of people following her right now. When she first started to do this, she was asking, I don't know if she's still doing it, she was asking for people's input. What do you want? Which of these 2 creatures do you want to loot next? And does anybody have any items that would be fun to put on this creature?
These are really good. These tables are amazing.
They are freaking amazing. And I keep screenshotting them and sending them aside because I like someday I will use these. And we just, we're level 16. We don't loot kobolds, right?
I loot the witch. This is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, her stuff is just amazing. But as kind of a sidebar, she started to get kind of popular, and her boyfriend jumped on Reddit and said, "Oh hey," in the D&D subreddit. He's like, "Oh hey, just if anybody wants to know, my girlfriend makes these tables, and she's excited about it, and just got a bunch of followers, and I thought everyone should look at this." And I'm like, I follow her. Oh my, worlds are colliding here. This is this is a random encounter.
They're really good tables.
Yeah, and I
really
sent him a message, and her stuff is some of the highest quality stuff that you can find for free in the realm of random tables, and it looks good. Like they're professionally made. Like it's I can't say enough good things about what Lady Tiefling has been doing. I've wanted to do this shout out since like episode 3. But I knew we were doing a random tables episode coming up.
So you were holding on to it?
Yeah, so I was holding my breath on it. But everyone, if you don't have an Instagram account, I don't know how you heard about us, but if you don't have an Instagram account, make one and follow her. She's absolutely amazing. And I've seen her crop up. Other people are using her tables. They're just blatantly stealing them and saying, "Hey, look at this cool thing. Hey, I made a meme about this." I'm like, that's not a meme, but good for you. Yeah. And it's getting passed around now in the D&D community, and she is going to be one of the big content creators out there. And Lady Tiefling, if you are listening to this, I suggest that you make a book and sell it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You could make some serious bank off of this, and I'll take 10% of the royalties.
Kickstarter, go!
Absolutely. I would be totally in. So this is something that I 100% believe in. I'm excited about it. Everyone go follow her, like all of her stuff, and support her as much as you can.
Beautiful.
All right, let's move on to topic number 3.
Sure.
Okay. Dan, this is going to be a foreign concept to you. I want to talk about planning ahead.
I've been doing it now.
Planning ahead with random tables, and what happens when these random tables, or how they can help your campaign, or how they can derail them.
Okay.
All right, so we've already covered a bunch of this.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a whole lot really left to say for me, but let's roll initiative. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
40.
Ooh, I honestly thought I was
16.
going to win every time.
No.
2, back in true form.
Yep.
I'm alright with it though.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to go first. The benefits, pitfalls, flexibility. These are all things I wanted to touch on, and we have.
Yep.
To some degree or another. But one of the things that I want to point out with random encounters specifically, so off of the concept of the magic items and onto the idea of the monster encounters and whatnot, I want to talk about what weather can do for you. Because random weather is one of the most important things, in my opinion, that you can do in a campaign. We talk about the 3 pillars, right? And it's easy to say, oh, I can come up with a combat encounter on a random table. I can come up with a social encounter on a random table. Oh, you bumped into the fence in the urban campaign, and he wants to hawk some items to you at an increased rate.
I thought you meant a literal wooden fence,
thought you
and I'm
meant
like,
a literal wooden fence.
why is the fence talking to you?
know.
Why are you skimming over the fact that this is a talking fence?
What is a fence?
A person who sells illegal
please
goods.
don't nobody make a soundbite of that.
Yeah, no. So it's when you go to fence items, you would take your illegal items and give it to someone else who knows where the buyers are, because you're just the rogue. You don't know all the buyers. You have a middleman.
Yeah.
Right.
The middleman is the fence.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you got to find a man that's got the right gate.
I'm leaving that silence. I'm leaving that silence in. Just the disapproval
It's
from
not
Adam
A
and I.
material. We've only got 3 listeners. I'm not wasting my good stuff on them because they'll go off and tell somebody else and pretend it was their joke. You guys get the shit.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. Terry's entire persona hinges upon these puns. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so it's easy to come up with social encounters. It's easy to come up with combat encounters. Environmental encounters. A lot of people just kind of scratch their head and say, well, how many rivers can you run into as you're traipsing through the woods?
Yep.
Right? So I want you to think outside the box and think about the environment and the weather specifically.
Right.
We've talked about this really briefly when we were doing our episodes on the pillars, but I love the idea of omens. Mm-hmm. Having the storm cloud or the you can hear thunder, but it is a bright sunny day. There's a blizzard in the middle of the tropical rainforest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. These are random encounters. Which, what do you do with that? Just what do you do with that? There are so many things that are out there that are high-powered creatures that have regional effects that nobody ever really plays with. You know their lair actions and their lair effects, but regional effects. One of my favorite pieces of lore that's out there is, did you know that when a blue dragon dies, in the area right around where he died, there will always be a storm. There will always be a thunderstorm.
How far? Like 30 feet or a mile?
It says kind of in the general area around.
Okay.
I myself would probably say an acre.
Yeah.
Right? Where you pass into this area and all of a sudden it's raining and the sun is blotted out by clouds and there's lightning strikes. Huh. And just because you have this, I mean, it's electric breath, right? Like it's lightning breath. And it's this powerful magical creature. When it dies, it affects the area around.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Can you imagine your random encounter? You're walking through like the desert because they're desert dwelling creatures. And all of a sudden there's just this one area where there's water.
Yeah.
And there's lots of it. It's this oasis. You got to duck lightning as you're in there. And there's a giant ancient blue dragon skull that's been charred and cracked by lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm. With a magic item hidden within it, and then when you go in to retrieve it, there's another combat encounter happening in the middle of a high-powered storm. Write this down. Someone write this down.
Yeah,
and I can't help but prep when these things come up.
But we should really be looking at the idea of what weather can add to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a portent of what's to come. Sometimes it can just be, in and of itself, a landslide. Right? Yeah. Now we're doing a skill challenge. Yeah. So whatever it is, think about it. Especially, I can't say this enough, Arctic campaigns.
Right.
That environment needs to be deadly. And you should just look up, how have people died, like explorers from 100 years ago in Antarctica and in the Arctic Circle and whatnot, where they go out and the entire party disappears, and they find evidence of them later.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need a Wendigo to be there.
Yeah.
You don't need a Yeti. It can just be rocks fall, you die.
Mm-hmm.
You're out in the tundra, the ground opens up underneath
you're in a crevasse.
Yeah. Or you're now in the tunnels underneath, and there's a remoraz that's burrowed its way through here, just from a random encounter. Right?
I feel like environment, and I know we've talked about this a lot before with exploration. It's just not played with enough. People crossing mountains too easily in this game, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
any sort of travel is just done way too easy. And
deserts.
I would like to add on top of that with. Even if you're a high-level campaign, you can use mundane animals to great effect in your random encounters as either portents or...
Buffalo Stampede.
Buffalo Stampede. One of my favorite ways to do it is to throw the Old Norse mythology at it and have a crow fly across the path or land on a crooked branch across the path, crow at your party, and fly away. Your party might just be like, okay, and move on. But if it's important enough for you to mention, the party should probably look into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially if one party member hears it say words.
Yeah.
And they got to whisper.
Everyone else hears a call. You hear, you're going to die. Like it's...
Or you just, like, at every level, you roll 1d6, or you start with a 1d4, and then a 1d6, and a 1d8, all the way up. Now you're rolling 3d20 by level 19 to how many crows are
just
falling.
Appear.
Yeah, and it's just like, what is happening? And then...
And they're always there.
Yeah, level 20, Raven Queen, right? Like, however... Right, just is out of nowhere. So
boom.
Like this is a fun, and she just doesn't have to be combat. She can just show up and bless one of your party
She's
members.
there all the time. She'll crow old with you.
You're knocking it out of the park today. Like at first, I was getting a little tired of it.
Stare into your soul.
But you are actually doing.
You always look at Dan for his disapproval. You know that you and I are birds of a feather, but he really he's the audience here, right?
He's just constantly beaking at me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you careful, you'll be eating crow. So
I just say one, then I let it go.
I can't.
No, he
I have
can't.
to
He
keep
doesn't
going.
have an off switch.
Yeah, you're right.
No, he's raving.
I'm always on. But
Evermore.
Oh God! This is why they hate us.
this is why we don't have listeners.
Okay, Raven Queen.
But anyway, yeah, the idea. I like the idea of there being mundane creatures involved there, and people don't think about that at all.
Yes, okay. I think what I want to talk about, benefits and pitfalls, I agree with everything you just said. I want to talk about flexibility and some of my ideas on how to just be a little bit more flexible with regards to planning ahead.
Always stretch before your session.
Always stretch before your set. Yeah, dynamic warm-ups, people. I think the way I stay flexible is to, whatever random encounter we come across, whether it be a social encounter, combat encounter, whatever, know whatever stats, or have them available, whatever you need, and know if it's involving NPCs or animals, what their goals are, what their fears are, and then check your ego, as in, don't have an outcome that you are looking for as the DM. Put the problem, the challenge, in front of them, know the important information you need to know, and then let them decide how it goes. And you just react appropriately to where it is. Because otherwise you're going to lose all faith from them, they'll feel like they're losing agency, and they'll feel like they're being railroaded. And the random encounters, the challenge should be put in front of them, but they shouldn't ever feel like there's an expected outcome. You should avoid saying, I think, things like, and we all say it sometimes, but, oh, you were supposed to do this and you didn't. Because next time you put one in front of them, they'll look at each other and they won't do anything because they don't know what they're, in air quotes, supposed to do.
Yeah.
So stay flexible.
Yeah, I do that all the time as a DM where I'm like, okay, here's my random encounter. I know that you guys
I think
are going to go.
what we mean when we say you were supposed to do this is we're saying I expected you to do this.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind, too, that when you're doing, I'm thinking about the mundane animals, this is true of anything in the monster manual. I think this ties into areas with what you're saying. Every one of these things has a different fight or flight threshold. And you guys had 5 tigers hunting you at one point, and you attacked them, and one of them turned around and ran away.
Yeah.
You guys had a manticore that's just like, okay, no, you guys are too powerful. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? You should have enemies that are escaping. And if the players hunt them down, let them. Right? And that's kind of the point that you're saying.
Absolutely.
Is give them all the power. Because it's not, this isn't your big bad evil guy. You don't need this tiger later. Right? So...
Yeah, and I think one last point I just wanted to make on random encounters as a whole. When people are looking for inspiration, we talked about it before with classes, is I like to try and twist things as well. So if you're looking for a really interesting random encounter, just twist something from normal, deviate away from the normal. So dragons, we know, are pretty much not afraid of anything. So maybe come across a dragon that for some reason is really afraid of something which is very close to them. Or an idea of gods are all powerful, but for some reason you come across one that's very weak. Or children that for some reason are not afraid to fight to the death. Or orcs begging for help. Something like that. Twist it on its head. Yep. And you can explore it a little bit more later on. But that's going to make your random encounter so much more engaging. Is the presence of the abnormal, absence of the normal makes things so much better.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to...
Nope, that's me. I'm all done.
All right. The last thing that I want to mention, and I know it's not on the itinerary, guys, but dilemmas in a random encounter. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
What do you mean?
When there's a moral dilemma. For example, you guys are fighting orcs and you're in an orc campaign and you found the signs of the orc as one of the random encounters, and there was the scouts and the patrols, as I was saying before. You come across a village, you murder everything in the village, and now there's an orc baby.
Perfectly legit. I think perfectly reasonable. Yeah, it's highly likely you will come across an orc baby after that. But I think these dilemmas need to be put in front of players, to make the game more interesting, so that they're feeling emotion when they're playing the game, which is going to make their times when they're being rewarded so much better. And it also means that they deviate away from their own railroading, which is just village kill, village kill. They're thinking more, and they're becoming so much more engaged in your story arc.
So do you reward them a lot? Like, are there big rewards for random encounters? Or do you save your big rewards for your plot points?
I think you can reward them with inspiration or other creative ways. And I know all three of us don't like to get too tied up into alignment, but I think this is a time when you can reward them for following their alignment.
Yeah. I honestly, I would encourage people when they're making their random encounters to throw in things that will bring dilemma and will cause a little bit of party strife in the sense that your guys are going to sit and talk about this for a while. I would encourage. It's not just something I like. You have this kind of feeling of is this something we avoid? No, do it, please, because that is where you're spending a lot of time in your campaign. This is where your character development happens. You need dilemmas to catalyze those to happen, right? So have your orc children, have your sword stuck in a stone.
Your charmed best friend that won't stop trying to kill you no matter what.
Yeah, have the one child miles out of a village alone with bare feet crying. Why?
Yeah.
You want to get a visceral reaction to guys like me who have young kids? All right, well, that is now my charge, and I'm going directly to the closest village.
Absolutely. I'll order the pizza, and you can tell me all about it later on.
But like these are your opportunities to do these things.
Yep.
And even you could even do that within your magic item lists as well. Have items that curse. Have items that are completely mundane but could be tagged. Like I'm thinking of like a locket with initials on it that will draw you into more story aspects. Right. If you are going to sit down and roll your random encounter, create your own random encounters, which I completely encourage. Throw in these little things that could be either plot hooks or things that will cause party dilemmas, or things that are just straight up like over the top rewards for players who just roll well, right? Like there's nothing saying you have to use the tables that are provided. Makes your life easier as a lazy DM, I use them, but I'll tweak them. I'll be like, no, I don't want you to have that amulet of natural armor, but I'll give you that amulet with the initials on it that will maybe eventually lead to an amulet of natural armor. Like, just because they rolled that item doesn't mean you have to give them that item now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's so many things around this that don't feel constrained by the numbers, by the tables.
Yeah.
If you're like me and you don't like spreadsheets, these tables will scare you. Don't be scared of them. They don't have an immediate threat to you. Just let them breathe with it. Like, breathe with them and let them kind of fill your campaign and use them to the best of your ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I guess my final thought on random tables, something that we didn't really touch on too much, or random encounters anyway, is gearing it towards your players. For example, if you have a ranger that is really good at desert and not so good at forest, your random encounter should be in the desert.
Yeah.
Reward them. Your druid with their circle of the land, whichever one they picked, reward them by giving them random encounters in their environment. Maybe the paladin and the cleric are running into the random encounters are the cultists from the opposing god. Like, find out what your fighter was, a battle master in the army, and there's a small group of rebels that are still living on the outskirts, and he's just going to clear them out.
Yeah.
Right? He's retired now, or the war is over, but these guys are still flying the wrong colors.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever it is, know who your party is and have them inform what your random table should include.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's been the first of the dungeon mastery, where specifically we look at how to prep sessions and whatnot. We're going to do this. Is going to be another series that we're kicking off. Dungeon Mastery. Tune in next week. We're going to get into Dragon Mastery.
Yes.
And we've got...
Wait. Dungeon and Dragon?
No, just Dragon.
Okay.
Just Dragon.
No, we did Dungeon this week and then Dragon.
I don't understand. Dan,
Dungeons
can
and
you...
Dragons?
What?
Who
Who are you? What?
Dragons, Dan.
Yeah.
You already knew this. That we were
I
going
knew,
to do
but
this.
no, I was...
Why would you ask a question where you already knew the answer?
I was trying to do a joke thing. I was trying to be the funny one for once.
That's Terry's job. We've established.
Okay, fine.
It's just as impossible.
I'll sit here with blank expression on my face like usual.
There we go. It can be confused, as it is often as well. Anyway, back to the podcast. This was all about random tables. We're going to start talking about how to do planning and prepping. But I think that moving forward in all of these Dungeon Mastery ones, we're going to focus specifically upon how you can prep for every campaign. Mm-hmm. We're not going to hone in specifically on
urban or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So we may, at some point in the future, start a series on that, but Dungeon Mastery for now. and we'll do Dragon Mastery, and I think there's like 17 Dragon episodes planned over the next couple of years.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So, anyway, I am Adam.
I'm Dan.
I am Terry.
And this has been It's a Mimic, and we will see you next week.
We out.
We out.
I'm in.
Thank you for listening to It's a Mimic. Check us out online at itsamimic.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have questions you would like answered by the guys on the show? Send them an email to itsamimic@gmail.com. Tune in every Tuesday for more.
Dan's run away. Dan?
Dan.
We don't know what to do. It's cold and I'm frightened.
And the wolves are after me.
Come back, Daniel. Don't leave me, Papa.